Husband asked me to join in with a unique fantasy for his birthday. I should have said no. Husband asked me to join in with a unique fantasy for his birthday. I should have said no. He was turning 40 and when we sat down to plan the party, he told me he didn't want one. He took the pen from my hands and pushed my notebook away, looking at me with sincerity and a slight blush to his cheeks. He told me what he really wanted for his birthday, and it certainly wasn't cake. We'd always been pretty active, if you get my drift, so it wasn't like I wasn't open to trying new things, but this was just different. To start with, it wasn't even really sexual. He explained it was more to do with the thrill of it all. The excitement itself was what he was after. I jokingly suggested going to a theme park and riding a roller coaster, but he didn't find it funny. I honestly had no idea what he wanted was even a thing. But upon searching Google, I found it really was a thing, and a lot of this particular fantasy. I listened to him talk, nodding my head, when inside my heart was pounding. I guess he could see my hesitation, so he told me he'd give me some time to think about it. And think about it I did. He didn't ask for much. He was always a loving husband. It was one night, I told myself. I told him we would give it a go for his birthday. I'd never seen him so happy. The day of his birthday, I took off work. It would take me a while to prepare everything, and I wanted to make sure I did everything right. I spent hours setting up, just leaving myself enough time to squeeze into my outfit before turning off all the lights and hiding in the bedroom closet. I laid in wait, or rather sat in a half squat uncomfortably in the small closet, and waited to hear my husband's arrival. I felt anxious. My idea of a good time certainly wasn't hanging out in confined spaces, and instead of subsiding, I felt the anxiety increase with the longer I waited. I was beginning to think about getting out of the closet, worrying he'd been stuck at work, when I finally heard the front door close and footsteps down the hallway. For some reason, hearing his footsteps and knowing he was there without seeing him just felt creepy. I willed my racing heart, which was going like crazy, to shush, so I could actually hear over the boom 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 of my heart beating in my ears. I wasn't expecting him to speak yet. I had learned his instructions well enough to know that, but I also wasn't sure what he was doing. There was nothing in his instructions about furniture being moved around. I could hear the squeak of something being pulled on the lino, and then on floorboards, getting louder, and I guess that meant also closer to me. I nearly jumped out of my skin when I felt the closet shake as something hard was thrust into it. I tried to let out a scream, but due to my gag, it was impossible and came out as a quiet and muffled moan. I could hear my husband's voice murmuring to himself, but couldn't make out what exactly he was saying. I told myself it was all part of the kink, part of the fantasy gameplay, but my gut was screaming that I was wrong, and that I was in trouble. I brought my eye up to the keyhole and peered out, thankful that I hadn't followed my husband's instructions to a T and left the blindfolds I'd been supposed to be wearing off. I could see him, leaning over the bed. He looked as if he was tidying up, pulling the duvet cover up and fluffing the pillows, but when he walked away, I saw what he was actually doing, pouring petrol from a jerry can onto the bed and walls above it. When he stepped away from the bed, seemingly out of petrol, I saw something else on the bed that my mind didn't comprehend, at least at the beginning. The person was male, that I could tell. He wore jeans and work boots, caked in mud. I stared at him through the keyhole, willing him to move, to get up, but he didn't. My husband was whistling quietly as he splashed the petrol, a tune I had heard before but couldn't put my finger on the name of it. It doesn't matter in hindsight, but seeing him doing something so destructive as pouring petrol over the bedroom, acting like he was doing something as mundane as watering the garden, sent chills down my spine. It's something I'll never, ever forget. It took everything in me to not struggle to get out of the closet, especially when the petrol was being poured. But somehow, despite the danger I was facing, I just knew the danger of being in the room with my husband was worse. I hadn't worn the mask, and I hadn't taken the sleeping pill he suggested, nor had I hog-tied myself like we had practiced the last couple weeks. I wanted to remain alert, and I reasoned I could fake pretend play sleepy and drugged if needed. The fantasy was saving someone helpless who was a victim of a crime. It was feeling like a hero, or it was supposed to be. A lie fabricated all for me to die, I realize now. I had helped plan my own death the whole way, without even knowing. I heard the slam of the front door, followed by the scent of smoke. I tried the door to the cupboard, but it wouldn't open. Something was pushed against it, forcing the doors closed. Luckily, the cupboard was a shitty excuse for furniture, and I kicked the side of the cupboard's wall up, breaking through the cheap plywood with one swift swing. The man on the bed I vaguely recognized as a co-worker of my husband's. I had never met him, but I'd seen him around in the office on the odd occasion I went to visit. I didn't want him to burn, but the slit in his throat told me he wasn't going to wake up, and I could not only smell smoke by then, I could feel the heat intensity building. I regret not trying to get him out. I have nightmares about that part of it all. But I did what I had to do to survive. I didn't wait around for the ambulance I could hear in the distance as flames licked the walls of my house. I didn't wait for the police to tell them what happened. I just ran, as fast and as far away as I could. It's been hard. Starting a new life isn't easy. Not in this day and age. I don't have access to any identification or bank accounts. All that needs birth certificates to set up. I work for cash, doing what I can when I can, in places I won't be noticed easily. I dyed my hair, cut it short. I never used my real name. I followed the news articles, though. The stories of my almost hero husband, who arrived home just a few moments too late to save his home. His wife was currently missing, presumed murdered by the crazy co-worker of his, who had broken in and who had ended up burning the house with himself in it down. The co-worker's body was so badly burnt that a cause of death could not be determined. It was considered fact that this man had taken his own life after lighting the fire. My husband had gotten away, scot-free. My husband was a hero in a way. A few locals set up a GoFundMe. After all, the poor man had no house, no clothes, and a missing wife. I watched as the money went up and my husband warned me on his public Facebook account. I wondered what he really thought, how angry he was that I had gotten away, how I had foiled my own murder and escaped. I wondered if the fact I was still alive kept him up at night. I was sure it did. It kept me up at night, too. The feeling of helplessness and betrayal. I had been a good wife. A better wife than he was a husband. I'm sure anyone would agree. So, that's why I've given him another chance. It's my birthday in a couple weeks and I think it's only fair I get to live out my fantasy too. My fantasy is a little different to hubby's though, but now I understand everyone has unique fantasies and that's perfectly okay. Mine is more a game of cat and mouse than about becoming a savior and hero. I've sent hubby a letter with a list of instructions, and I just can't wait to hear back. I look forward to updating when my turn does come. As the night closes in and the echoes of this tale linger, I extend my deepest gratitude to you, dear viewer. If you enjoyed this story, consider subscribing and giving it a thumbs up. Your comments are the key to new adventures. What dark mysteries do you want to uncover next? Explore my other videos for more haunting narratives and eerie experiences. Stay tuned, for the night is full of secrets yet to be revealed. Until then, stay intrigued and stay haunted.